Good evening and welcome to the Thursday, June 15th, 2023 Scarborough Board of Education public meeting. Diane, can we call the attendance, please?
Sure. Miss Gammon? Here. Mr. Kelleher?
Here.
Miss Leong?
Here.
Mrs. Lindstrom?
Here.
Mr. Mayorino?
Here.
Ms. Tarpinian?
Here.
Mr. Peony Huff?
She'll be here soon.
Mr. Shumway?
He's been excused.
And Miss Legier?
She's also been excused.
Great.
Thank you. Would every Thank you. Agenda item 4.0 are adjustments to the agenda. Do we have any adjustments this evening?
No adjustments this evening.
Thank you. Agenda item 5.0 is public comment. Is there anybody wishing to make public comment this evening? All right, seeing none, I will close public comment. Agenda item 6.0 is the Scarborough High School Spring Sports Recognition. I'm going to now invite Michael Legage up to the podium.
Good evening. Thanks for having us tonight. And I'm going to get right to it, just so in terms of time. This will be an opportunity for our coaches to share how the spring athletic season went for them. So I'm going to start with our boys outdoor track and field coach, Derek Vayu.
Thank you for having us this evening. I guess must be the oldest coach in the room now that I get to go first. That's kind of scary. But anyways, congratulations to all the spring athletes and teams and all their wins and successes they had this year. The outdoor track team had a very solid season. You know, the expectations are always high, having won 3 state championships in a row and 5 out of the last 6. And so when you finish 4th of the state meet, the initial thought is was a tough season, but really it was an excellent season. And we had a lot of growth. We had a big team, 56 athletes competed this year. And we had a lot of young sophomores. A lot of our top athletes were sophomores this year. So a lot of learning and a lot of lessons were learned there. But we had excellent standout athletes all throughout the year. We had 1 state champion, Wyatt Martin, in the pole vault. He came in, I think he was seated for 1.5 points and ended up winning with like a 1.5 PR. So just outstanding performance there. And we had some other great contributions. Our captain here, Adam Bendenston, was the runner-up in the 3,200. I broke the school record 4 times on the season and ended up 3rd in New England. So just outstanding accomplishment by Adam. And you know, the foundation is there for the future. As I said, we had a lot of young kids, and I think they learned a lot this season and are really looking forward to the future. Thank you.
And girls outdoor track and field, Coach Curry.
Hi, this is Julia Black and Caroline Falona. They were seniors captains this year, student athletes. They were on the all academic Southern Maine Conference. We had 55 girls on the outdoor track team this year, so it was pretty exciting. Young team, only 5 seniors are graduating. We were undefeated in our conference champion, and then we're the conference champions, coming in second to Bangor. These girls were on part of the 4x1 state record they had at New England's this year, so that was pretty exciting for them. Yeah, we had a good season. Like I said, it's a young team, so I think that's about it. unless you want to hear more, but. Okay. You're welcome.
And Coach Barrett with boys lacrosse.
All right, thank you for having us. This is a great opportunity, so I really appreciate it. I have so much I want to say about this program and our season. I've been a part of Scarborough Lacrosse since '96 when I started as a player. I'm really proud of where the program is today, after all the progress that's been made. So what I want to do is first introduce, these are my captains from this year. Boys captains, so we've got Ben Kerbal, Jake Berry, Richard McLeod, and Andy Arpin. These guys were instrumental in helping me lead this program. It's a huge program with a lot of boys. We've got 68 boys who participate, which is phenomenal to see that many guys getting the opportunity to play lacrosse, but also be a part of this team. And one of the things that I'm most proud of about the team is the fact that as a program, we really try to breed those lessons that you can learn not only on the field, not only to win lacrosse games, but lessons that you learn off the field: perseverance, accountability, teamwork, leadership. These guys have, Ben's a junior, but these three here are all seniors. They've been a part of the program for 4 years. And one of the staples of our program is that we do a mentorship program with the youth lacrosse, and every season, every player in the program will go down and they'll volunteer for at least one practice with the youth program. So that's phenomenal. And it's part of the way that we teach these guys some leadership skills through the program. And then these guys rose up, volunteered, wanted to become captains, and did a phenomenal job this year. So a little bit about our year. We went 5-9 in the regular season, which doesn't sound great. However, one of the things about our program, we've been very, very successful over the years. And in lacrosse, you end up getting a tiered schedule based on your previous performance. And we've been, because very, very successful, we have a tier 1 schedule and we play all the best teams in the state. This year was a little bit of a rebuilding year for us. We graduated 18 seniors last year out of a roster of 25. So that just tells you how much replacement we had to do. But these guys did a phenomenal job of stepping up, as well as some of the underclassmen and the younger players who came in and learned the game and started to play at a level much, much higher than they were used to last year. So that was a phenomenal success this year. And to go 5-9, win those 5 games. We made the playoffs as the 10 seed. We ended up having to go up to Bangor, who was the 7 seed, and we upset Bangor 12-4 in the first round of the playoffs, which was huge. And then we went and we had to play the 2 seed in Falmouth, which was pretty daunting, but we actually played quite well, and we played with them for the first half, and then their experience and their skills kind of took over from there, and we ended up losing. But in the end, I think everybody in the program and myself and the coaches and these guys felt pretty good about what we accomplished this year, coming back from losing so many players and being able to build that back up again, and had a pretty successful end of the season. So that was phenomenal. And the future looks bright. The youth program had 200 boys in it from kindergarten through 8th grade this year. So there's lots and lots of players playing in town, and we've got more coming, and we're just looking forward to continuing to build the program and keep it rolling. So thank you. Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention. We also won the Sportsmanship Award this year, and we'll be receiving that honor at the state game on Saturday. So that was pretty awesome. Thank you.
And Coach Colangelo with girls lacrosse.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having us today. With me, I have 3 of my senior captains this year, Anna Kavanaugh, Molly Henderson, and Elise Handy. We had a really great season of growth this year. Our record ended in 3-12 with a loss in a playoff prelim game against Thornton Academy. Although our record doesn't show how much our student athletes grew as individuals throughout the season, one of those 3 wins was really pivotal in us even making a playoff spot. So I'm super proud of that win for them. They beat a 4th seed about 2 weeks before playoffs. That really solidified a spot for us to be able to get to play in that extra game. Our primary focus of our athletes in our program is to come out of sports with real life skills that help them to be successful in the classroom and whatever avenue that they decide to take on after high school. One of our biggest contributions to our athletes' self-growth this year was our dedication game to Morgan's Message, which is an organization that strives to eliminate the stigma around mental health in athletes. So my captains really had started this dedication game that we did. I brought it to them and was like, is this something you guys want to do? And they took it and ran with it. We were able to have t-shirts made for them. We were able to make posters. We were really able to talk about what that means for athletes and how that they can support each other on a team rather than doing anything alone. So as our season went on, these lessons and the support from our team helped them succeed in the classroom. They always put their academics first while wanting to attend practices to keep themselves active, which allowed them to learn time management skills throughout our season. I'm super proud of the way our athletes handled schoolwork, lacrosse, and being a kid all at the same time this year. And definitely along with what Zach said about our youth program, my girls attended youth practices every Saturday morning with our youth and was able to be a huge mentor in a lot of those kids' lives. I've had a few of our youth come up to us and really just appreciate each kid and how they were able to just play pass with them at practice or just do something with a high schooler that they'll definitely remember for years to come. So our future definitely looks really bright. This year we had 29 kids in our program, which was pretty small. Definitely not what Scarborough's Girls Lacrosse program has looked like in the past. But our 7th and 8th grade middle school program has 42 kids in it right now. So we're definitely building that part of it. We're going to lose 10 really strong, really amazing seniors this year. So I think it will be more building, but they've definitely left a legacy of leadership that I hope our younger players are able to really pick up on.
And Coach McCormick with Unified Bocce.
Okay, so I've got 3 of our members here. We have Nick Vayu, Grace LaRue, and Camden Verrill. We had a very exciting bocce ball season. This is our 3rd season. Our first season, we were the only team in Maine to have a team, which was interesting. We played each other a lot, which was really competitive. Second year, I think we had 12 members, and this year we have 21, which is the biggest unified bocce ball. I'd argue maybe the biggest bocce ball team in the state of Maine. And I have no data to support this, but maybe the nation. So it was a great season. We had some hurdles in the beginning where with weather, we had to play in the hallways for a little bit throughout Scarborough High School, which was great acoustics for my old person music that I like to listen to while we play. But we ended up playing 6 schools that we had never played before. So that just shows how much unified bocce ball is growing in Maine. We had a blast. I had a blast with these guys, and we'll continue to have a blast for many years to come. So thank you.
And Coach Rutherford with baseball.
Thanks, everyone. Baseball team had 46 kids come out for baseball this year, which was the most we've ever had ever in our program, which is nice to see. We had 20 freshmen, which is really eye-opening to show up to a tryout session with 20 freshmen there. And we have 20 8th graders coming in next year too. So we're gonna have to see if we can get a bigger gym or something. We had a record of 11-5, which was good for the number 3 seed in our conference. a lot of ups and downs throughout the year, which was really cool to see the kids bond and come together stronger, not only through the ups, but through the downs too. I think that's really where you see a lot about your team is how they handle the negative, not just the positive. And they really battled through some tough situations and helped each other out. And definitely some games we wish we could have won. Some games we probably should have lost, but we won. But that's sports all in general. We did make the postseason. We lost to Marshwood in our quarterfinal game, 5-0. Just a tough game overall, but really excited to see the growth that the kids made. Each of them, our first team, our JV team, and our varsity team. There's a ton of growth throughout the whole program, and really successful down the youth league as well. A lot of our players are actually helping out. They helped out over the winter with clinics, and they're still helping out this summer. A lot of them are umpiring this summer, which is cool for them to see that side of it too, so that they stop yelling at the umpire so much. But no, it was a great season, and we're looking forward to the next one. Thank you.
And Coach Winslow with softball.
Hi. Thank you for having us here tonight and giving us the opportunity to just talk about a great group of kids who bring a lot of joy, I know, into my life. And I'm sure that's true of all the other coaches here. We finished our season this year 10-6 in the best league I've seen since I started coaching in 2007. That was good enough for 6th in the league. We ended up losing to a very strong Kennebunk team in the quarterfinal round in the playoffs, but with all but one player back next year, we're looking pretty dangerous. Once again, a big part of my coaching philosophy is that the game belongs to the kids. I might bless myself a little on third base and make some calls, but what you see in the game is really the product of their preparation and all the work that they've put in. And what I saw this year from our kids is a group of talented and intelligent, independent thinkers who care about our team's success as much as their individual success. One of my favorite things about this year was looking up and just catching them helping each other, tweaking swings, positioning in the field, whatever. It showed that not only are they learning the game, but they want to share their knowledge with their teammates. They understand that when every individual is better, the team is better. They care about the success of other people, which to me is just a major mark of confidence and security in themselves. It's easy in sports to measure success solely in wins and losses. We've certainly had more of the former than the latter. But I think our success this year was revealed more in the kids' growth and their maturity. This was a big transition year for the kids. They had a new coach after 40 years. And they stepped up to the challenge and took it head on. I had some great leadership from our senior captain, Angelina Pizzella, but also from our juniors who just stepped right up and naturally and just took over a leadership role in the team, both in their work ethic and in their performances. I could go down our whole roster with examples of how each individual stepped up, but I heard I get the hook at 3 minutes. So I'm just going to end up by saying how proud I am of the kids, how proud I am to be part of this program, but I'm not just proud for how they play, but who they are and who they're becoming as people. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity to talk about them and be here tonight.
And Coach McDonald with boys tennis.
Good evening, everybody. Before I begin, I want to introduce my two co-captains. To my left is Eli Delano, and to my right is Brendan Ammon, both seniors, and both will be attending school this fall in colleges in North Carolina and in Massachusetts. And other than our record, I would also, like to talk about just briefly afterwards some of the accomplishments my kids have had academically, because I think it's pretty impressive. But in terms of how we did this season, I think we fulfilled our potential. I don't think we were on the list of favorites. At the end of the regular season, we were 8-4. We were 5th in the Hill points. We played a quarterfinal match against Portland, a team that we lost to previously. We defeated them by the same score, 3-2. And we made it to the semifinals, eventually losing to the state champion Falmouth. And this is, I've been coaching for a long time, and in Class A South was definitely the best league with the top 3 or 4 teams in the state, all in one league. So what they accomplished this year was impressive. Also, I just want to echo what a lot of people have already said. The educational values that you learn from tennis and how you can apply them to all aspects of life and vice versa, right? It's all interconnected. The community, the family, and the school district, and tennis as well. In terms of awards, I got one student who was in the top 10%. I had 4 members of the team who were on the all academic team. I had 3 members who were on the robotics championship, state championship team, and I'm forgetting one more thing. And I had 2 students that earned awards for the seal of biliteracy. So I think they exemplify definitely what a student athlete is at Scarborough High School. So thank you.
And I don't see Coach McIsaac here for girls tennis, but I'll say that they had a record of 11-1. They did very, very well. They went to the quarterfinals and won the semifinals and lost to Kennebuck. But they had a very good season as well. So I think you heard a lot about wins and losses, but I think you heard more about education-based athletics in the value of student participation in after-school activities and specifically athletics. And we're very fortunate and proud of things like sportsmanship awards. Of course, I always say that I like to see the teams win sportsmanship awards over state championships, because I think the sportsmanship award speaks to the fact that you're doing everything the right way. And so really proud of Coach Barrett and boys lacrosse team for getting that, as well as all the accomplishments of our great student athletes who work so hard to balance athletics and academics, which is really rigorous. So thank you all for being here tonight. Any questions or anything?
Thank you, Mike. Is there any questions? Comments? Yeah, please.
I just wanted to say it's really impressive to see all of the amazing things you accomplished. I think the thing that strikes me is sort of what softball and baseball, I'm using your sports, not your names, because I can't remember all your names off the top of my head, but talk about leadership and stepping up and really I want to first say the people who won and went to championships and PR'd, that's incredible. Your work and dedication pays off, and you should be so proud of yourselves. We are so proud of you. We are just as proud of the folks who won sportsmanship awards. We are just as proud as leaders. I know we got a story about shot put, who gave up a win by correcting a clerical error in his favor. And stories like that show that the athletes here are not only great athletes, you are great athletes, but you're great people. And those lessons go beyond the field and will take you into great places in the world. And we are just so delighted and proud of you when we hear about all your accomplishments. So good job.
I just have 2 things to say. I do want to talk about the letter we received, so I am going to read it. But before that, I also want to talk, and to Freila's point, you all show leadership skills every single day, and it's really, really impressive, and it's really empowering, not only for you, but for the kids behind you that watch you. So all of the volunteerism that you do, going to visit the younger kids, it may not seem like a big deal, but I promise you it's a big deal. Those little kids look up to you. And it's an awesome, awesome, awesome responsibility. And so I thank you for doing that part as well. And I know we talk often about life lessons and things outside of the sports and things outside of winning. And I know the lacrosse team in particular had a very difficult decision for the seniors sitting up here to make when it came to the end of your season and determining if you were going to go on and play in your playoff game or if you were going to go to your baccalaureate. And those are tough, tough decisions. And the fact that you rallied together and you made your decision and you stuck with it and you stuck together as a team speaks volumes. And so those are the things to be proud of. And to Freila's point, we did receive a letter and I'll just read it. Colby Largay, is the Class A state champion in shot put, but he almost wasn't. What happened? A clerical error when his 48-foot, 3.5-inch throw was read on the sheet by the officials in the scoring tent as 43 feet, 3.5 inches. Understandably, errors can occur in conditions like yesterday. The writing may not have been clear or marked forcefully enough, or rain could have impacted the paper. Who knows? But everyone over there knew what Colby threw, especially the other boys. Thinking Colby had won, the supportive group of top 8 performers were called to the award area. As the clerk was organizing the medalist, it was discovered that there was an error, and it was pointed out by the other throwers. Colby was listed wrongly as the bronze medalist, third place with a throw of 43 feet, 3.5 inches. The other 2 throwers who would have benefited personally from this mistake stepped up. Nate Murray of Scarborough and Riker Paradis of Lewiston were set to slide up a spot. Murray to state champion, Paradis to runner up, but they knew this was wrong. They, along with the other 5 throwers, pointed out the mistake to the clerk and as a group went to the field office to advocate for a correction of the error. Well done to do the right thing by Murray, the runner-up, and Paradis, the third place winner, along with Tucker Walker of Sanford, was Josiah Rodriguez, Ian Randall, and Austin Lorenzo of Bangor, as well as Henry Reish of South Portland. This is what integrity and sportsmanship is all about. So he's not here this evening, but that's an impressive letter, because to Freyla's point, this was his win, right? That he didn't win and he knew he didn't win and he pointed out that he didn't win. So it's lessons like this that the coaches are teaching that we really appreciate, and we are so proud of all of your accomplishments, and you should be so proud of yourselves too. So let's say one more time. All right. So we are going to move on to talk about our new school building project update. And I'm sure every one of you wants to stay and listen, but just in case you have to run to the restroom or something else, we'll give you a moment to move around. I know.
Here for you. On my first disappointment.
All right, agenda item 7.0 is the new school building project update. So for this, we'll have Dana Fortier and Lisa Swain up to give us an update.
Yeah, good evening, everybody, and thanks for having us. So we're excited to talk a little bit about the school design tonight. I'll preface this by saying a few things. There's a lot of folks that have been involved in this, in the work that we're going to talk about tonight. There's been a lot of thought, and it's been outside the building committee, outside the school board. It's been the fire and EMS folks. It's been the police department. It's been town staff on a number of different levels. So just a huge body of work that's been, that's been progressed over the course of the last few weeks. We have Lisa Sawin here tonight from Harriman Architects. She's our fearless architect and school designer expertise, expert among many things. So happy to have her. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about the concept design that we've progressed so far. And again, one thing I want to mention is that this isn't likely going to be the final design, but what we need to do is organize the major pieces so that we can put together the cost estimate. And I think we've achieved that. Maybe we're, I don't know, 99% of the way there, I'd say. So some really good work there. We'll talk about the cost estimate, and then we'll do a little overview of kind of the schedule and the next steps. A lot that has to happen over the course of the next few weeks to make sure that we get in a position where we can get this up to vote for this group, and then also ultimately to town council. So last thing I'll mention is we have also been progressing land discussions, which has been happening at a breakneck pace. A lot of really good work there from members of the building committee, town council, school department. It's been, sort of an all hands on deck effort. So anyway, I'll turn it over to Lisa and let her lead us through the information, and I'll stand by for any questions that Lisa can't answer, which is probably not going to happen. So
It's always good to have backup, Dana. I just want to echo something Dana said. There have been a tremendous amount of people involved in this, and I know we're giving an update of the past couple weeks, but I want people that may just be tuning in to understand this has been going on for years. And so there's been a lot of dedicated people to get it to this point, and just a collective thank you to everyone who has been involved. Tonight, we are going to update on, kind of take a little bit of a step back briefly. There's only 18 slides. We're not going to be here all night. A little bit of a step back to remind folks of the work that had gone into creating the design language and the talking points about this project. And these were developed by a group that was pulled together of district leadership, teachers, and community members. And they dedicated their time after hours to essentially go through a series of visioning workshops and really get into some in-depth conversations on the educational vision. So we looked at educational priorities, architectural priorities, and community priorities. And tonight we're here to show you how those priorities have come through into the building design. We'll have an update on the site. We'll have an update on the middle school portion. This is a K-8 solution. And also an update on cost and next steps. So we've taken many hours of work by that committee and distilled it into one slide. So we essentially have the guiding principles. It looks like the text got a little skewed there. But we will do our best to work through that. Sometimes it happens with the PowerPoint. So design language and community talking points. So the group that we worked with, and we did many iterations of working with the entire staff. We had workshops with everyone from K through 12 on some of these visioning sessions. And they came up with, out of that came the guiding principles. And these are kind of the overarching guiding principles for this solution, as well as 20 desired 21st century design patterns. And when we say design patterns, those are architectural solutions or strategies. And essentially those begin to support the guiding principles. That's okay. I don't remember them by heart, so I'm going to wait until it comes back up. That's all right. We'll work through it. Yep, perfect. So the guiding principles, the big picture educational and the architectural priorities that provide the framework for making design decisions and choices as the design unfolds. So we use these guiding principles, the design patterns, and the design statement as we were putting together the floor plan for this building and making sure that every decision we made in regards to layout, adjacencies, spoke to that design language that we were charged with. So those guiding principles, student-centered learning, learning communities, adaptable, flexible learning spaces, school as a community resource, outdoor nature connections, and sustainability. I'm not going to read through all of the 21st century design patterns. They will show up on other slides where it will be probably easier for everyone to read. I think there's about 22 of them, and we will go in depth on how those are in the plan. But what's important in addition to this is there was a design statement that came out of running a couple community forums to essentially understand the essence of Scarborough and this building solution for the K-3 schools. And what this was is we wanted folks to identify words and phrases that captured the essence. We then educated the group on what 21st century best practices were for school design, specifically in elementary schools. And then through that process, they were working in groups, arrived at a design statement as well as these design patterns. And we took all of those and distilled them into one. And so at the bottom of the screen, little bit tough to read, but I'll read it out loud. The design statement that we were charged with is an intimate community of innovative, flexible, and inspirational learning neighborhoods that fosters inclusivity, collaboration, and hands-on learning. I'm going to read it one more time because you're going to see it in the floor plan. An intimate community of innovative, flexible, and inspirational learning neighborhoods that fosters inclusivity, collaboration, and hands-on learning. You can go to the next slide. So what this chart is doing is taking those guiding principles and taking those design patterns, and we've literally graphed which design patterns support those guiding principles. And so you can start to see classroom neighborhoods is the first design pattern. That is seen in student-centered learning, learning communities, adaptability, flexible learning spaces, and so on and so forth. So you can start to see where these architectural solutions support these guiding principles. Next slide. So this is a simplification of the floor plan, and we've done this so it's easier to read. There's a lot of detail in the floor plan, but how this building is laid out is it is a school within a school. A true school within a school. There is a lower primary school and there is an upper primary school. Each school has 2 grades. So what we've done is in the core or the middle, or we could call it a spine, if you will, where you see the orange and the purple and the dark blue. Those are all the core spaces. The teal wings are the classroom neighborhoods. This is how we break down the scale of this building for our youngest learners. So if you were to come in on the left-hand side, the lower primary school entrance, you'd be greeted by the admin. You would come in, you would go past the art room. We're celebrating the students' work. You walk in a little bit further and we're at the heart of the school, the library. So part of the visioning we did with the community is they diagrammed adjacencies for us, and they identified that the library is really the heart of the school. So we position that in that location. We then go further down what we call the main streets, and we go past the STEM spaces and then the music spaces. And you can see that these programs are offered on each side of these main streets, so they're easily accessible from each school. And then as we go further down, we get to the gymnasium, and then a gymnasium with a stage and a cafeteria. These spaces are located here because they're the most accessed by the community. We can secure the building off at that gym that is to the top and be able to close off the whole school. So after hours, the community can come in and use those spaces, or before and after care can use them before school or after school. So we have a community entrance right where you see the cursor. There will be a drop-off area for before care. Community services can see these students coming to the school, and then they can easily observe the gyms and the cafeteria. This also works for after hours if we have community groups coming in to use the gymnasiums or the cafeteria or the stage. Or if you want to host something and you don't want the community and the rest of the school, it's easily secured off. So those are the core spaces. These are the areas that are shared between the 2 schools, but you can see that we have those programs like art, STEM, and music easily accessible by each school. We are constantly thinking about how far a student has to travel in this school and minimizing the travel distance from the front door to the furthest classroom, from the furthest classroom to the furthest core space. So then we'll talk about the classroom neighborhood. So if we take the lower primary school, you see these dashed dotted lines that come down and literally define the 2-story space of the school. Those are essentially firewalls. In building design, we have to separate the building into different buildings with firewalls. But what this allows us to do is to be able to have doors that close off the classroom spaces for various reasons. If you don't want people to get into the classroom space, whether it be because of a fire drill or a lockdown or any of those reasons. The classroom neighborhoods are set up so that it is a intimate learning environment within the overall school. Each of these classroom neighborhoods are either a complement of 3 to 6 classrooms. This is what a child is going to experience, those 3 to 6 classrooms. That's really their community within the school. And then they will be able to reach their core spaces. If they want to bring the whole grade level together, so on the left-hand side, the lower primary school, that's kindergarten. Where we have these 3 classrooms, there's in a community gathering space to be able to bring that whole grade together. So it's layers of, we can make it as small and intimate as we need to, but we can also bring that group together as a grade level, or if we need to bring them together in a larger space for the whole school, we have that ability, the flexibility. So it's mirrored on the other side. So on the upper primary school, you have the same concept, 3 to 6 classrooms per classroom neighborhood. So if we go to the next slide, second floor, it's a mirror of the first. So essentially you will start in the lower school, and then once you go through those grades, you will transition across the building to the other entrance for the upper school. And you can determine as you operate the school, if after school has started, you only want to use one entrance to be able to have more control of who is coming into the building, you can do that. So next slide. So this is why I diagrammed it, because this is what the floor plan looks like. It's a little harder to understand. But on the right-hand side of the slide, you see the 22, and I can see they fell off the screen as well, but the 22 design patterns, and we've started to identify where these design patterns start to show up in the school. And one of the major organizational patterns that I forgot to mention is that we have organized this building into a courtyard scheme. And what that does is these classroom communities essentially circulate around an outdoor space. So there are 3 of them. There is one for the lower school, one for the upper school, and one that is more of a communal outdoor courtyard. These are great to be able to push out and do secure outdoor learning. We have lots of schools that have created more intimate courtyards, and art classes go out there for plein air painting or story hour from the library, so on and so forth. There's a lot that you can do with these outdoor courtyards, but they also provide daylight and there's visual connection to them. So we're always thinking about in any building that we design, but especially in schools and even with our youngest learners, is thinking about wayfinding. So how do they know where they are at any time in this building? They have that visual connection back to the courtyard so they can understand where they are in that overall building. I won't go through all the design patterns, but you can start to create, the connections with the different numbers. We've already talked about the classroom neighborhoods. Indoor, outdoor connections are really important. As well as things that you won't quite see in the plan yet and aren't identified will come through as we continue to advance the design. Like it's hard to see branding and identity at this time. That's going to come through themes and colors as we start to apply that to the building. Next slide. And this is the second floor. So starting to identify where those design patterns are found throughout the school. This is the site plan. For those that aren't aware, the site has been identified in Scarborough Downs. This is the outline of the site, the dashed dotted line, 2 dots and a dash essentially outline the site. And you can see the building that is outlined in blue. And then you can see the orange triangles, which identify entrances. So we have the lower primary and the upper primary school entrance. And then we have the community entrance, as well as this building service entrance. And that is for building services, for maintenance, kitchen deliveries, things like that. I will preface this with these, as Dana mentioned earlier, these are the parts and pieces that need to be on the site, and they are for cost estimating purposes. This is by no means a final site design. But what we are always thinking about, especially today, is queuing of parent drop-off. And so making sure that we have ample drives for drop-off spaces, and essentially broken that into the two different schools. And then the middle is a bus loop. We have, as I mentioned before, the community service entrance and parking. It's not just for community services. It is essentially additional parking and drop-off, but is conveniently located in that location so that that can happen easily in the mornings and afternoons, as well as parking for the building services. We're always thinking about the future. And so this building is designed based on your enrollment projections with a 5% increase factor from that. And that is the middle number we designed to. So the max number is even more than that. So 1130 is the design number, 1230 is what this building can hold. And then we think about future additions, and you can see those dashed lines at the ends, thinking about if an addition needs to be put on this building, where would it go? And we think about that now so we don't put utilities in those locations. We make sure we design the structure inside the building so it's easy to be able to open up the building and make those connections in the future. The building is oriented so that the front door is facing south. That is ideal. And Todd will definitely support me in this. Ideal for making sure that it is easily maintained in the winter. South facing means we have less ice building up around the front doors. The building has sort of a, if we just take a general shape, a rectangular shape, kind of a skinny rectangle. This is an ideal building shape, if you will, and it is elongated around along the east-west axis. So we have the most southern exposure. This is great for daylighting and energy efficiency. I think that's the majority of the site plan items. So we'll move on to the next slide. So the middle school, making sure that as part of this K-8 solution, we address the capacity needs at the middle school. So the 6th grade will move to Wentworth when the 3rd grade moves out of Wentworth into this K-3 building. We will eliminate the portables. We will take out the foundations from the portables and redo the parking underneath where the portables are now. Another site item that is currently included in the cost for the project is the emergency access for emergency personnel to be able to get on and off the site and not have to go through the line of traffic to get back to the building. Inside the building, and I'll talk about this in a couple of slides, but I'll talk about it now as well. You have 4 programs that are currently on carts, even after the 6th grade moves out. So we've identified ways to do some renovations within the building to make room for those 4 programs, as well as some other additional renovations to support some of the special ed programming. We're considering possible capital improvement projects of things not necessarily related to capacity, but need to happen at this site. And so talking with the school district about looking at capital improvement projects between now and when all these projects come online, of revising the bus and parent drop off and parking to make that more efficient than it is now. Next slide. So floor plan, just hatching the areas where we're identifying renovations to create spaces for those 4 programs, as well as other spaces that are not an adequate spaces for their program. So it's the first floor, and then on the 2nd floor, a handful of renovations as well. So cost estimate. So last week, I think it was about 10 days ago, we had a presentation to the building committee on a preliminary cost estimate. This cost estimate was the first cost estimate that we had on a building. Everything up to this date has been rough order of magnitude, essentially using historic costs against the square footage to determine an approximate number that this project could be. So now that we have a floor plan and we have costs, we have detailed information about what is going into this building, we can do cost estimates. The cost estimate that we presented last week, we have had time now to go through it. It came in about a day before we presented it, and we caveated it with, we haven't fully reviewed it yet. We need to go through it in detail. We have now had time to do that. And as we suspected, we were able to find things that maybe didn't align with the scope that we had identified, and things that needed to be removed or reduced or just modified. And now the cost estimate is in line with what the scope of the project is. So what this slide is showing you is the cost breakdown. And I'm going to start with what the current today's cost estimate is showing us, and I'll compare it to what the one last week was showing us, just so that folks who are tuning into both understand the difference. We're going to talk about construction costs, and we're going to talk about total project costs. And this can be, if you're not familiar with them, it can be somewhat confusing. Construction costs are the dollars that are needed to have the materials bought and the building built. The total project cost are all the fees associated with the project or other things that are not part of what the general contractor is putting into the building. So things like furniture, fixture, and equipment. If you were to take a building and you turn it upside down and you shake it, everything that falls out is furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So all this furniture that we're sitting in, anything not attached. Anything related to construction contingencies, bid contingencies, those buckets of money that are there. So if we go out to bid and there's a discrepancy between the estimate and the numbers that come in, we have a contingency to cover that. During construction, we have a contingency for unforeseens. As we're building a building, there's just things that come up that nobody could have accounted for. We have a contingency to cover it. Those are the types of things you're going to find in what we call soft cost. And that is when you see the construction cost plus the 25% to get to the project costs. That 25% are those soft costs. And there's a bunch of other things, different fees associated with all the different permits we need and things like that. So that's the difference between construction and project. So for the K-3 primary school, including a geothermal system and the site work, the construction cost total as of today's estimate is $105,972,793. When we put the soft cost on that, we are up to $136,763,703. So that is the K-3 project. These costs do not include the cost of the site or off-site improvements, nor did the rough order of magnitude that we have been that we had put onto the project as a rough order of magnitude cost to date. So the K-3 primary right now is being estimated almost exactly what the rough order of magnitude cost was at the $136.7 million. Looking at the middle school and the scope of work that we just talked about, so those renovations we talked about in the building are coming in. Construction costs, $3.4 million. With the soft costs, about $4.1 million. I'm going to use round numbers. People don't need all the exact detail. It's up on the screen. So when we add those two together, and we're just for this going to look at the total project costs, when we add the new K-3 primary and the middle school renovation together, we're at $140.8 million for those projects. Again, that is including the building and the site work. The estimate that we showed last week, you can see the delta. So it was almost $8 million over that number when we look at the bottom line. So things that may impact that number, we're getting a geotechnical evaluation done out on the site. That may change the number. We have a very healthy allowance for earth stabilization. If we find we don't need that, we can look at reducing that. The sustainability subcommittee is still working on coming forth with their recommendation on HVAC systems. And then we talked about offsite improvements, site procurement, all of that is not included in this number. And then any other things that may come up that maybe the community wants to add would not be in that number right now, but could be discussed. So that's an overview on the cost. And then schedule and next steps. As Dana said, we have a lot that we are doing this summer to get ready for the what we hope to be a fall referendum. A lot of this is making sure that all stakeholders are up to speed on what's going on. And so making sure that everybody understands what's in the project, why it's in the project, what it is, why it's needed. We've done a lot of work up until this point on the why now and the goals, and now it is the design that supports all of that. So we're here tonight to update all of you. And really the next big time that we're in front of you is to essentially ask for your approval to be on the November referendum. And that will be on July 13th. There are many steps in between that. Most importantly, I want to put in a plug for the community forum on the 20th. There'll be a community forum, I believe, in this room from 5:30 to 6:30, right before our building committee. We invite everyone to stay for the building committee. And there are many, many ways for folks to get involved if they want to get involved. We have many folks involved and are very grateful of all of their commitment. But definitely want to have folks come out to that. Many different building committee meetings, town council meetings. I won't go through all of them, but again, if there are questions, let us know. We'll be back in front of you on July 13th to update you on the cost, the design, and ask for your approval to go to the referendum. Any questions? Any additional thoughts, Dana?
Sure, I'll just, thanks, Lisa. Really excellent work by the team. You know, I think the one thing that, just to ask, you know, I know this group has been tremendously involved in the project, and I can't thank everybody here enough for all of the help and the support. These next few weeks are really going to be the time when we have to, you know, the rubber meets the road. So the more we can get the word out about the project, really get people engaged, get them educated on this material, get them educated on this still has to go to referendum and to vote. That's just something we've heard. People are saying, well, I thought this was a done deal. Well, no, it's not. There's a lot of work left to do. So, you know, as much engagement as we can get from all of you and friends, family, neighbors, the postman, whoever it is. Yeah, right. So, again, really appreciate the time. You've got a lot of work to do over the course of the next few weeks. Thank you, Lisa, for an excellent overview. So, any questions?
I do have a question. So the number you have plus the 25% just for things that might happen. So that's what you expect it could go up to. It could be less.
Yeah,
but could it be more?
Well, so the 25% isn't necessarily the could happen number. It's so if you think about you're building a house, you have to buy, you know, lumber, you know, flooring, you got to pay the people that are going to build the house. That gets you a house, but then you need to have furniture to go in it. You need to pay the architect to design the house. You got to pay the town permit fees. That 25% covers all of those other things, right? So
like everything that goes into the
yeah,
school.
and there is.
But then you said there was some things that were built in just in.
Yeah, there is some
Right.
contingency. So you have contingency that's kind of in two places. One of them is in construction, and the other one is in what we call design contingencies. So yeah, so if Lisa messes up and misses something, and we have to, because it costs us more money, then that's the design contingency. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's not going to happen, but so there is some contingency in there, but again, this is it. Most of that 25% number is things like furniture and you know, all the random things that have to get put in after the school is built. So
Yeah,
if
and
you wanna-
I'll address a couple other things. So that 25% is based on historical projects that we've done. And they almost, not all of them, but a lot of them come in around 25% for those soft costs. So you also have a commissioning agent in there. That's somebody that is going to make sure that the building is built to the details to make sure that the HVAC, the electrical, the plumbing, the building envelope. You have an owner's project manager. You have a clerk of the works. those are three positions right there in that soft cost, as well as many other things that are in there. There's many line items, and they are built on like testing, construction testing that we have to do. And so we look at our latest project and we use Escalate, what it actually costs to do that, not only what we carried in the line item, plus escalation. So we feel as confident as we can that those line items will cover all those costs. And then there are 2 line items in that probably 30 line item document that talk about contingencies. And that would be your bid and your construction. The design contingency is in the cost estimate right now to essentially, we're only at concept. We have another year of putting together documents after a successful referendum. And so there will be things that can't quite be captured yet, and that design contingency is built into those numbers. That was a really long answer to your question. Did we address it?
If you want to, I think in the last building committee meeting, I think we did provide publicly the actual estimate breakdown. We didn't, no. But that will come. And, we had work to do on the estimate, but it'll break down everything to very fine detail. So good question.
Perfect. Any other questions? All right, so I will just also put in a plug for the 20th for next Tuesday, 5:30 to 6:30, which is our community forum, which is would allow people in the community to see the floor plan and see the progress that's been made to date. Also, one other thing is on July 13th, which is our only school board meeting in July, we will have our executive session then, and it will be joint with town council, again, to review the building progress, where we are, progress made to date. And that is the same night that, as Lisa alluded to, that we will have a vote on the agenda to move this to town council to put on. So it's exciting times.
Great, thank you.
both For your, for all of your work. We really appreciate you both very much. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
All right, agenda item 8.0 is new business. 8.1 is the mix and mingle waiver request. I know we have someone here with us.
Hi there. I have been a member of Mix and Mingle for about 10 years, but the group has been dancing in the Scarborough schools for over almost 30 years in different schools. A complete program which takes a person from knowing nothing to knowing about 60 steps with which you can dance in any place on the globe takes about 30 weeks. So that is why we're looking for a waiver of custodial fees and use fees for 8 Corners School on Thursday evenings, starting September 4th and through June 6th. And we have been at 8 Corners for, well, not as long as it's been there, but quite a while. And it keeps a whole lot of people off the streets on a Thursday night, including you guys. And we do, if we do have expenses, we have to pay the caller every week. But if we end up with a little bit of extra money, it goes back to the school. And this year we were able to donate $500 to the school. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much for that very generous gift. We are very appreciative. So thank you. All right, do I have a motion to approve the mix and mingle waiver request?
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 8.2 is the mix and mingle donation that was just mentioned. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. All right, agenda item 8.3 is the second reading of policy AC, the non-discrimination, equal opportunity and affirmative action policy. So I will turn this over to Freyla.
Hi, policy committee's been busy. So I'm gonna run through AC and first, can I run through AC and JICA really fast? Yeah, can we bundle those? Or is it too late? I just think it makes sense to. I'll go through one at a time.
Let's go through one at a time in case there's
Okay.
any discussion.
So 8.3, AC, it was sent out to everybody. There's a slight change in the definition, section of that. There was no discussion last time, so we went back to the policy committee. We looked at it, said we didn't discuss anything. And it's been brought back for second, reading at this point. So I don't have anything to present on it. It was a slight change in the definition, section. It was one sentence that we inserted. So any questions, comments, concerns, complaints?
All right, do I have a motion to approve the second reading of policy AC, the non-discrimination, equal opportunity and affirmative action policy?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 8.4 is the second reading of policy JICIA, weapons, violence and school safety.
This one had a slightly more substantive change at the bottom. It was presented last time. It went back to the policy committee. We didn't hear any concerns. We didn't make any changes at all to that. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has about them. Otherwise, it's the same one that we voted on.
Do I have a motion to approve the second reading of policy JICIA?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 8.5 is the first reading of policy JK, which is student discipline.
Here's where things get a little more fun. So on JK, student discipline, and we took the model policy, we compared it to our old policy and accepted with very few changes. If you open up the draft with the changes in it, we changed the permissive language to shalls, which is sort of what our policy committee, I think, is doing with all of our policies, to sort of make them, if we have a directive in there, it's a clear directive. It's not it's not left up to interpretation. So we changed two shalls, and then also we changed the school unit to school department, because we're not a unit, we're a department. But that was the only substantive changes in there. A lot of this policy comes directly from the statute book. So we don't get too creative with it. Any questions?
Any questions? All right, do I have a motion to approve the first reading of policy JK, student discipline?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Perfect, it's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 8.6 is the first reading of policy JKD, a suspension of students.
So JKD goes along with student discipline as it is one of the disciplinary measures. We made a couple of changes to this policy. Other than the shalls, we added a sentence at the very bottom, which said students are not allowed on school property during any out-of-school suspension except with prior authorization of the principal or superintendent. We indicated that also included no school events. So that would be if it was off-campus grounds too, just to clarify. That's the understood policy, and we just wanted to kind of say the silent part out loud. So if there's any question with students, they know that that's the policy.
I just want to add one extra thing, Frela. This policy, the substantive update that came from the draft policy is the addition of the separation of what happens to students who are in grade 5 or under that cannot be given out of school suspensions, right? So that is, but that's a law, that is a state law. So this policy reflects that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the second reading of policy? No. Do I have a motion to approve the first reading of policy JKD, suspension of students?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 8.7 is the first reading of policy JKE, expulsion of students.
Similarly, we continued on staying this policy. We made a substantive change to from the sample policy. It's the third paragraph down that we struck. In the policy, the model policy allows the superintendent the discretion under Maine law to provide an alternative to expulsion on a case-by-case basis and make it that determination in writing. We struck that because the superintendent would move a case to the board for an expulsion hearing in the first place. And so if that happens and the hearing takes place, we want to declare that the board's decision would carry forward. If the superintendent decided to do an alternative, we would be delighted not to have the hearing and have that alternative take place. But once what we didn't want is a parent coming back and saying, well, under the policy, please, superintendent, do something alternative after the board has already issued a ruling, because it would just put us in conflict in a way that's not appropriate. So that was the substantive change we made. And then other than that, we clarified some, in that case, we didn't do a lot of clarification of shalls. It was pretty good, some spacing. There's an optional section that we struck out because it just didn't seem to make sense. And then we added ands and ors at the very bottom on page 2, but not a lot of substantive changes. That the only real substantive change is that top one. And we just thought that put it in conflict with the procedure.
Do I have a motion to approve the first reading of policy JKE?
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Perfect, it's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 8.8 is the first reading of policy JKER expulsion guidelines.
For this one, we did make slightly more changes to the process to make it more congruent with the normal hearings process. I'm probably the only person who cares about that, but I do deep in my soul. So, it runs more like an administrative law hearing would run. So, and it's written in order to do that. These are steps that an administrative body who's rendering a decision would take. And so we just sort of clarified some of the language around that. You'll see, we inserted on page 3, I think, a section C, we inserted the hearing officer will ask about conflicts of interest. The policy does address that later on in the sample policy, but that's a question that you would ask first before you take any substantive steps. So we just kind of reordered it to make sense so that if we were hearing it or whoever's hearing it, it has a conflict of interest, that should be identified first off and then action taken. It shouldn't be thought about after we've taken steps. So that was that's the biggest change we made. I just closed it. Okay. But the rest of it was just making it more congruent with language. Again, the shalls, changing his and her to there just to make it read a little bit easier. And that's pretty much it. We renamed some of the things, cross-examination. That's what it is. This looks more like the procedures of hearing would take place now. And the language before half did it and then half renamed things. So I just thought it made sense because there are other rules that would reference this. It would talk about cross-examination. It wouldn't talk about questioning. So I'm happy to take questions. I can stop babbling about procedures now.
Do I have a motion to approve the first reading of policy JKER expulsion guidelines?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? As much as Freyla loves step-by-steps, I love spacing and that sort of thing. So Kelly, would you mind just noting, I didn't see this before, so I apologize, between letter N and letter O, if you could just add a space in there under procedures, if you wouldn't mind, that would be fantastic.
I appreciate you guys looking over all of these thoroughly.
Sorry, I know. I'm gonna stick with Kelly until the very last minute. Thank you. All right, so no discussion. All right, all in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. All right, agenda item 8.9 is the meeting minutes from June 1st, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Perfect, it's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 8.10 is appointments. 8.10.1 is the high school assistant principal.
All right. Sarah Blaisdell has been chosen to fill this position due to her resignation. Mrs. Blaisdell received her Bachelor of Science, or Mrs. Oh my goodness, it's a long night. Here we go. Mrs. Blaisdell received her Bachelor of Science degree in mathematics from the University of San Francisco, where she also earned her Master's of Art in Teaching. She obtained her Certificate of Advanced Study and Educational Leadership from USM. Mrs. Blaisdell began her teaching career at Albany High School in Albany, California as a mathematics teacher, and she continued that career as a math teacher at Scarborough High School from 2005 through this school year. She was the summer school program coordinator in 2022, and for the 2022-2023 school year, she completed her principal internship at Scarborough High School. We are very excited for Sarah to assume a leadership role as the assistant principal at Scarborough High. Would you like to say a few words?
I was told that this has to be like 20 minutes.
Yes.
It's
At least 20 minutes.
Thank you for this leadership opportunity. I'm thrilled to be able to continue my career in the Scarborough School Department, and I look forward to being part of the team that is amazing at the high school.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the high school assistant principal position?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Congratulations. Very well deserved. All right, all in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. Congratulations again. All right, and agenda item 8.10.2 is the middle school assistant principal.
Okay, Chris Murphy has been selected to fill this position due to a resignation. Mr. Murphy received his Bachelor's of Science degree in both elementary education and special education from Boston University. He earned his master's in school administration from North Carolina State University. He has been the head of school in both the Philippines and in South Korea, where he was also a K-12 principal. And most recently, he's been the head of school at Lee Academy. Staff at the middle school is looking forward to Chris to join their team. And as I found out today, he's also a fellow lifelong Hartford Whalers fan, which you don't run across every day. Here in my office was like, is that a picture of Chris Pronger? I'm like, you know who that is? Anyway, Chris, would you like to say a few words?
I had to ask who the Hartford Whalers were.
Oh, no, oh, no. Well, we'll have a meeting about that. Yeah, we'll figure that out. No, that was interesting today, walking in and seeing the only kind of picture other than your family on the wall. And it's a Chris Pronger picture of the Hartford Whalers. So that goes back for me. No, I grew up, I won't go into a long spiel. I can talk a lot, so I won't do that. But grew up in Connecticut, been coming to Maine. Maine's been home since I was born. My family has a place out on Sebago Lake. So I've been coming to Maine as long as I can imagine. And summer is my favorite time of year up here. So really looking forward to some time on Sebago. I really just appreciate this opportunity. You know, I know Scarborough is one of those places you throw your hat, into the ring, and I'm sure you had numerous applicants for these positions. So I really appreciate the opportunity. Kathy reaching out saying she would be here to support me tonight. I really appreciate that. I know she doesn't have to be here. So that just shows me the type of, school that I'm getting myself into in a really positive light. So really appreciate the opportunity. Looking forward to working with all of the board members here and working at an amazing school and with Kathy into the next school year. So much appreciated.
Right, is there, do I have a motion to approve the middle school assistant principal?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Congratulations. All right, all in favor? No, not yet? Yeah, we're voting right now. We're good. We're unanimous. Congratulations.
Rushing
Thank
tonight.
you. Oh, all right. Agenda item 8.10.3 is the Scarborough High School Fall Coach.
Okay, so as I have in the packet, varsity volleyball, Nicole Petherbridge.
Perfect. Do I have a motion to approve the fall coach as presented?
So moved.
Second. Perfect. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Very good. Thank you. Agenda item 8.10.4 is second year probationary professional Catherine Lyons, special education teacher.
So this was, Catherine was not on the June 1st list because she was just recently hired and selected to be in basically year 2 in what was a 1-year position. So that's why she wasn't on the list on June 1st.
Perfect. Do I have a motion to approve the second year probationary professional Catherine Lyons, a special education teacher?
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor? Perfect. Thank you. It's unanimous. Okay, agenda item 9.0 is a motion to go into an executive session pursuant to one MRSA 4056A for the purpose of discussing the superintendent's annual review to return to public session. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Perfect, it's unanimous. Thank you. We will be back. To adjourn? Second. Any discussion? Just came out of the Ellen, all right, all in favor? Perfect, it's unanimous. Thank you. Have a good evening.